Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. Oh my goodness. So much to cover. So the Vice President Kamala Harris was on The View this morning. Um, and did you notice she came through the other side to the big door? It's like there security protocol stuff. I wonder what that audience had to go through to be able to sit there. Um, anyway, they clearly cannot hide their joy for her candidacy. Whoopi introduced her as the next president of the United States, which I guess no one's expecting them to be unbiased anyway. But that was a lovely interview, a nice chat. She was very human and relatable, and talking about making breakfast and pancakes and always more bacon. Um, I'm sure that upsets the vegans and the vegetarians, but you know what? Bacon is good. So in all, I think that whole sort of segment is a positive for Harris. Um, it's a lot of the same things. I keep hearing the same words, but I'm paying attention probably more than most people are. So if that's the first time somebody's hearing something, I don't know how you avoid it, but whatever. Um, I think one of the most important things that she said was towards the end of the interview in talking about not letting um, ego get in the way of a good idea. And I'd like for her to repeat more often. Not like that was a lovely phrase, but um, she keeps saying turn the page and a new path forward. But I I I think it would be helpful if she would repeat a new generation of leadership. I think that expression resonates with people who are really really tired of folks pushing 100 being in charge of everything. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, and I love old people, but at some point, you got to turn the reins over to the next generation, and certainly my generation seems to have been skipped for a lot of it, because the ones older than us have just won't go. so um, so I thought that was great. Amy Farfar Griffin asking the border question that she's answered over and over again. She answered the exact same question on 60 Minutes last night, and she's got an answer. This is what we tried to do, and it didn't work. And what I would have hoped that Harris would have said at the end of that is, you need to also deliver me a Congress that will help pass these bills. Um, so if you'd get out of your own way in your Republican stronghold, because they are the ones that are holding up all of the progress, we could get some shit done. But I know that they don't really want to. They don't want to say it that directly. And the other thing, which I'm not going to mix into interviews because she was on the 60 Minutes interview ran last night, um, which at least at the very top of it, they did a nice job just sort of undercutting Trump to say he changed his mind. He didn't want to be fact checked. Um, and the the interview questions for her, I thought, were poor. It's why are you bringing up fracking again? Why, like, it's just that it's GOP talking points, and it drives me crazy when that's all we talk about is whatever the GOP attack line is for that cycle. And um, when she was pressed to answer the question, how is she going to pay for these initiatives she has? I know they don't want to really talk about raising taxes on the wealthy because they don't really want to use the phrase raising taxes or increasing taxes because that scares people and millions of people who are not going to be affected by it whatsoever. You're not in the 1%. You're not going to have to worry about it. Um, and if you are worried about whether or not you'd qualify for the 1%, you're not in it. Um, and to say that she would raise taxes. And I think that by sort of keeping that kind of under the rug a little bit is also a little bit of a mistake, because I think they underestimate how popular the idea of raising taxes on rich people is with most of America. Um, because uh, you know, the middle class is tired of paying for everything. um, so that I thought, uh, I don't really know how much that interview on 60 Minutes did for her. Again, it got better towards the end. It just started out a little. It felt a little contentious. Um, but you know, this whole thing, like, she's got to talk about the border more. Like, how much more can you talk about it? This is what we want to do. Put me in there, and I'll go do it. Like, I'm telling you exactly the plan, and I've said it over and over again now. That's what we'll work to do. Um, I don't like, what do you want? The people that say you want to hear the words "close the border," then you're in the wrong camp. Because that's not going to happen. Oh, I don't even think Trump can do it. He didn't do it last time. Um, and I hate that that's the primary issue. I hate it that we didn't even once talk about reproductive health in um, in either interview. That to me is the primary sort of number one Democrat winning subject, and it really wasn't a part of either interview. Although I did see Meghan McCain, our dear friend Meghan McCain, the Princess of Arizona, complained about the uh, Call Her Daddy podcast, saying, "Why do they think women only care about abortion rights?" It's like, well, it was a 45-minute interview. There was more topics than that, but um, go on, bitch. It is one of the most fundamental differences in the two campaigns. And as a woman, Megan, I would think that you would want your rights to be restored, which aren't going to happen under um, Donny Boy. So then we have Tim Walz's interview. Again, like the stupid Hong Kong, and Donald Trump thinks that you're too far radicalized left. Why are you asking him about Donald Trump's opinion of him? Like, it just, like, that's just like, not only you're just using Republican talking points, you're literally just quoting the Republicans. And you don't do that back to the Democrats. Um, but Walz answered that, and he's like, "Oh, because we feed our kids so that they have, they're not distracted by hunger to learn. Um, that we offer family medical leave so that people can bond with their kids after they have them." He was great on that interview in 60 Minutes, and then he was on Jimmy Kimmel last night, and he was great on that. That is, I think, a nice sort of relaxed format for him to shine. And I don't like, at this point, we have to, there can't be an argument that Harris Walz won't do corporate media, because you got 60 Minutes and The View. You don't really get more, corporate mainstream America and mainstream media than that. So, uh, of course, the Washington Post and the New York Times are going to continue to complain because they're not going to talk to them because they do hatchet jobs. But I feel like, at this point, it's now Trump avoiding any real. He's going on the Ben Shapiro podcast. So are we now going to talk about how Trump is avoiding doing any corporate or mainstream media? Like, no, we're not, because there is just no equivalence in the coverage between the Democrats and the Republicans, and it's really fucking frustrating. But I have to say, after all four of those interviews at the beginning of this week, um, I'm feeling hopeful again. I feel like, okay, we do have this. Um, and I just, when she talks about people being sick and tired of the divisiveness and the cruelty and the chaos, I think she's making a really good point, and it's a good thing to remind people of. if you're tired of the chaos, here's an answer. Might not be the most, um, I would love for her to say, I don't want to be on your TV every day. I would love for her to say that, like, I want to get back to the business of running the country, um, as opposed to, tweeting from my golf course, rage tweeting from my golf course. Um, but it's where was I going with this? Oh, that her hopefulness, talking about going around the country, um, and and people being sick of the chaos. It's good to remind people of that, um, because, and especially as she did put it in the context of, you know the most recent hurricanes, because this one in Florida is going to be a whopper. Ooh boy, the uh, the mayor of Tampa is just telling everyone, if you're in an evacuation zone and you don't evacuate, you're going to die. You just literally, not, that's not even, that's a quote. If you stay, you're going to die. Like, get the fuck out, dum dums. Um, and at this point, they should say there will be no rescue, right? We can't, we won't be able to come get you. So get out. I wish they would say that just in advance. Like, we told you we can't get there. Don't don't expect us to come. We're not gonna. Um, because if it's as bad as it says it's gonna be, we're not gonna be able to get there. So get yourself out first. I think you can make that caveat without it sounding, as potentially inhumane as I just made it sound. But and then that whole pettiness of DeSantis not taking her phone call. Ooh, I'll just really, I'll give it to the libs by not answering her call. Well, it's your own constituents that are going to suffer, but they get around that by talking to local politicians and officials. So, like, you're just making an ass of yourself, DeSantis. But he's good at that. So anyway, again, I feel like if she's talking about, the that whole sense of, um, getting all this behind us, getting away from the chaos. I think that, I certainly feel the same way, and I can't imagine that doesn't resonate with a lot of people. Um, and we just have to make sure that, you know when we get the votes counted, there's an astronomical number of them beyond what he gets, so that it can take some of the question out of it. There is theory, which I don't appreciate, that part of the reason that Trump is just kind of flinging it now is so that he does tank, and that the election results come out so wildly skewed toward her while the polls remain close, that he'll say there's no way that these can be right because the polls said it would be close. That's a scary thought, but I'll take that over the actual outcome being close at all, because that will help restore my faith in some of the American electorate. Um, and voting starts soon, man. If it hasn't already in some states, get this fucking show on the road.